Hey, welcome to the lab. Today we're talking about launching business. We call it Rewire Launch. It's an interesting thing because when you're launching a business, you want it to go fast and furious, right? And we've got a couple of guest speakers here today. We've got Shifu from Kung Fu Panda and Veruca Salt from the original Willy Wonka. And they're going to help us out today because they're entrepreneurs too, with a couple different ideas about how business should go. Veruca, she's going, man, I want it now. I want it right now. And she's going to scream and squeal and kick and grasp at straws and do whatever. Shifu, he's going to say, well, this all takes time, and we're just going to take a lot of time doing it. And Veruca's going, no, I want it now. And then you go, well, I'm reading about some stuff, and I read this dude named Malcolm Gladwell. He's got this book called Outliers. And by the way, if you haven't read Outliers or any of Malcolm Gladwell's work, this is pretty good stuff. Malcolm Gladwell says, you can become one of the best in the world in 10,000 hours. If you grab your calculator and that's anywhere from like 3.5 to 5.5 years, depending on how much work you're doing, right? Maybe 3.25 to 5.25 years. It's not that much time. So it might satisfy Veruca because she's going, I want it now, and that seems like enough time. This guy's a little more skeptical. He's saying, how on earth are you going to become a master of anything in 3 to 5 years? Well, there's a couple of answers. Harvey Mackay, who, by the way, wrote the inside of my book, but that's another story. Harvey Mackay, who is a very astute businessman and wrote Smoke the Sharks Without Being Eaten Alive. When you meet him, he'll say, John, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. I go, well, that makes sense. That makes sense. I can practice all day long, and if I'm not really working and tracking and practicing, and doing things better and better, then how can I ever be perfect? And that's exactly right. So one of the things that we found is that in the last 25 years and seeing thousands and thousands and thousands of people launch business, some very common traits. And it's how it's almost like super clear the people that make a lot of money and have success, they do one thing, a little bit more successful people do another thing, and the wildly successful people that have that do launch businesses and go places, not everybody's successful, but the patterns. Success leaves clues, and so does failure. And it's kind of interesting. I kind of equate it to this this graph I saw the other day. This is not a success graph; it's an income graph, but it can be used for the same purpose. What they're saying here in this graph is that it's median income, basically. So they're saying that this line here from anywhere from 1985 to 2014, this is the median income. So half of our country's population earned this and below. The other half earned this and above, and some of them really high. It's like the top 1%, the one that Bernie Sanders doesn't like, but we all want to be. But it's interesting, and you see these different bands when people launching business. These people down here, the people that have little success, I call them the 40 and 40. They work about 40 years at 40% and wonder why it never ever happened. The people in the middle, they'll go, you know what? I'm never going to try anything new. I'm a man. I'm gonna just go out there and work harder. And I'm going to drink a bunch of beer afterwards, and they end up just kind of burning out. These people just collapsed because they kind of gave up. These people collapsed because they burned out. These people are the ones that rock and roll it, and it's an interesting thing. Some common denominators. These people, they're not afraid to look silly. I don't know, that's my version of silly. They're not afraid to look silly, and they track, and they have goals. Not just goals, and we'll talk about goals other places in Rewire, but goals like, today I'm going to make 28 to 35 connections. I'm going to make as many calls as it takes, but I'm going to have that many calls because I know, and I'm going to track them. I'm going to track how long they took. I'm going to see at the end of the day how many I had. I'm going to know what I need to work on. I'm going to ask people. I'm going to ask more questions than anybody on the planet to people who can help me. This is what they do. And they study methods, they reach for what's next, they test, they use systems, all these things, and they stack and stack and stack, and pretty soon they're successful. And it's no wonder, and then you compare it to these, and it's like, well, no wonder, that's what they are. The other thing that happens when they're doing this is not just do they go from here to here, but along the way, if they're contacting that many people with that much intent, and striving to be that good, they're going to make the money right away that they need. Because if you're launching business or starting a sales job or whatever, you're growing business, you got to make money right away. So there's some certainty that needs to be nailed down, and when they do it this way, they're more likely to get it than either of these people. they're also immersing themselves. They're immersing themselves to getting massive number of reps, repetitions, wide exposure to a wide number of scenarios. So repetition is a mother of skill, right? And skill, skill or even not skill over a amount of time is experience. But skill plus experience, that's what you need, because all the good, the big, the cool rolls to experience and skill. And so that's how you get it, by working only 10,000 hours. And so let's bring it all back. You go, man, I'm launching a business. What did all that mean? Well, one, just decide where it is you want to go and be committed to it. We'll talk about commitment and goals and again in other places, but you got to be committed to making this happen, right? And the other thing is you got to know that, what's that quote? We all overestimate what we can do in a year, but we all underestimate what we can do in 10 years. Understand that that's really your range. It's not going to happen over the course of a year. It's going to take you 6 months to get on track. But when you do, if you're doing it this way, you're cooking. If you do it this other way, it's probably never going to happen. So know what it is you want to do, and know that it's going to take a little bit of time, energy, and effort. But you can compress that by doing what these people do. Don't be afraid to look stupid. Track, have targets every day. Know where you are. Test. Ask people who know. And that's how you get there. That's how these people do it. And then, so it's interesting. It's like, while you're doing that, right now, somebody else is out buying a car and financing it for 4 or 5 years. By the time they get their car paid off and it's not worth much anymore, you're well on your way here. And where Varuk would buy a lottery ticket, you're creating your lottery. Glad you're here.